Hey, welcome back to Three Things with JR. It is Sunday night, December 1st, and I have just completed a weekend of shows with the Wizard of Oz at Live Arts in Charlottesville, and it was a wonderful weekend. After dealing with some people that were sick in the first weekend and not having our full cast and crew, we were back to 100% this second weekend of the show, and this show is just getting so good, like tweaking little tiny things every single performance, just to tighten the show up and make each performance better than the one before. And the cast works very well together, learning from each other live during the show, between shows, via email conversations about how we can fix little things here and there. It's just great. Such a wonderful cast, and the show is getting rave reviews, especially now with the full cast in it. I had a bunch of friends and family in to see the show on Friday night. My dad drove in all the way from Iowa. My sister came up from Florida, and friends from Northern Virginia, family. I had about 10 or 12 people in the audience that night, and they loved it. My friend Darren said it was, of all the shows of mine that he's seen me do, he said this was his favorite one, and he had questions and wanted to talk about it the next day and stuff. And man, it's very rewarding being in this show, and there's 2 weekends of shows left. We are about to enter into a very grueling week of shows. We have 6 shows in 5 days. We got a show Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, 2 shows on Saturday, and a Sunday matinee. And then we'll get a few days off, and then we'll have another grueling weekend to close the show out on Sunday, December 15th. And I think one of the things I'm really excited about is getting to do the show for the director of the show again later in the run. See, John Gibson is our fearless leader, our director of the Wizard of Oz, and he's been with us most weeks, putting the show together and rehearsing and all that. And he was there for the first weekend of shows, but he has gone home to Atlanta, so he did not see our second weekend of shows. He will miss our third weekend of shows. And the show, as I just mentioned, has been getting better and tighter and just supreme. And I can't wait for him to see it in its last weekend, and to see all of the work that we've done to perfect his vision for the Wizard of Oz. So yeah, it's pretty exciting, and shows are selling out. So if you are considering whether or not you want to go see it, you should get some tickets and just go see it, because if you wait, you won't get to. So that's it. That's all for Wizard of Oz. I do have an update on one of my topics from last week, in which I told you about how I thought companies like Nike could use AI, or just be smarter. One of the two. Because they really showed off how dumb they are with the emails they sent me regarding a purchase of a pair of shoes, and the email they sent me to entice me to buy them, and they just got dumber. After I recorded that episode, I had sent my shoes back. They emailed me to let me know that they received my returned shoes, the Air Max 90s that I had purchased and had determined were awful. And on the same day that they emailed me to let me know that they got my return, they sent me a separate email, which was a survey, another survey, asking me specifically how much I liked the shoes that I had just returned, that they had just emailed me to confirm they had received. And I had already filled out a survey explaining how awful they were. So I filled it out again, and let them know just how uncomfortable they were. And then the very next day, I got another email from Nike, and I was expecting them to respond to my criticisms of their shoes. But no, They sent me one of those automated emails asking if I was still interested in the Nike Air Max 90s. You know how when you go to a website and you put something in your shopping cart but you don't buy it, they send you emails and text messages and everything they can. They go, hey, did you forget something? Hey, are you still interested in getting those? They're on sale now, whatever. That's what they were doing, was asking me if I was still interested in the Nike Air Max 90s, despite the fact that they had sent me email confirmations to let me know that they had received them back in on return, and they had gotten a survey where I let them know how bad they were, and they wanted to know if I still wanted to buy them. What I have done instead is I went over to Brooks, the running shoe company. Now, I wore Brooks when I ran the marathon in New York a few years back, and I haven't worn Brooks in a while, but I went to see if they had the type of shoe I was looking for. It's basically a running shoe that is just super soft and comfortable, like a ridiculous amount of padding, which is what I loved about my Nike Zoom X. I've had two pairs and I wanted a third pair. I thought these Air Max 90s were going to be soft and comfy. They were the opposite of that. I went and found a pair of Brooks that I loved. I purchased them, and everything about the Brooks transaction has been rooted in intelligence. And they haven't sent me any stupid texts or emails or anything like that. They've just been great. So I have since deleted my account on the Nike app. I have deleted the Nike app from my phone. I'm unsubscribing from all of their emails and text messages. And I don't know if I'll ever buy another pair of Nikes. And the craziest thing about this is it was sometime in the past year, I was listening to like a Wall Street Journal podcast all about Nike and their devotion to the digital, what's the word? Retail, the digital commerce, right? Like they have taken their shoes off of various other places, like, for example, Amazon. They would rather you buy direct from Nike using the Nike app that they are investing heavily in, right? To make that a cool place to buy your favorite Nike shoes. And so it was kind of shocking to me that Nike was so dumb in their digital commerce. But anyway, that's how that saga has ended. And that's not a thing for this week. That's just an update on the thing from last week. Yeah, I got things. Let's do them.
Thing number one.
Oh, man, I don't want to talk politics on this. And this topic, it's going to sound like it's politics, but it's not really. It's personal. It's relationship oriented. But here we go. I have a problem with people who voted for Trump this time around. 2016 was forgivable. He was a novelty act, a celebrity, drain the swamp, something totally different, change. I get it. We didn't really know how bad it was going to be, even though like all signs pointed to him being an awful president. But he was even worse than we thought, right? He was so bad that the country elected Biden. And it seemed like we were done with Trump, but no, he's back and he's worse than ever. And not just being a horrible person, his policies are clearly going to be awful for everyone except the rich and corporations' bottom lines. And I'm not going to list all of the stuff, right? I'm not here to get into that. Like I said, this isn't technically a political thing that I'm here to talk about, because this is where it gets a little deeper. I'm really just here to talk about how to treat people that we love that voted for Trump. It's pretty easy to write off most Trump voters as stupid, gullible, short-sighted morons. But that's probably not the thing to do, at least not across the board. If you listen to my other podcast, Small Things Considered, then you know that we talked about the election this entire year. We even had my dad on to talk about the election, and mainly because he is so polar opposite of where we are, Gary and me. He's very conservative. He and I do not think alike on most things. Religion, abortion, immigration, LGBTQ stuff, the economy, electric vehicles, the military, crime, Kamala, Trump, and more. But my dad is not a moron. He's not stupid. He's a very compassionate man. He works harder than anybody I know. He always has and still is, even in his retirement. He's very good. He's very good with money. He likes, loves, and respects me. So how dumb could he be? And he does all that despite how differently I think and how different I am from him. When we had my dad on the show, he told us at that time, point blank, there was no way in hell he was going to vote for Biden or Trump. He couldn't even believe. He was incredulous at the idea that in this country, these were the two choices we were left with. He boldly said he didn't think either of them would still be in the election in November, and he was half right. I spoke with him about a month before the actual election, like in early October, and he told me he was not going to vote for either Kamala or Trump. He was most likely going to write in Nikki Haley. He was very, very upset with the Republicans for voting for Trump over Nikki Haley, who he thought was a much better candidate, representing his morals and values better than anybody else in the election. And, you know, I told him I had no trouble with him voting a write-in for Nikki Haley, as long as he didn't vote for Trump. If he voted for Trump, we were going to have a problem. And at the time, I kind of meant it. Like, I really wanted it to hit home for him that I would have a lot of trouble with him if he voted for Trump. And what I want is more than anything, is for my dad to think and vote like I do. And if I can't have that, then there's, I'm almost ashamed to say it, but there's definitely a part of me that wants to be mad at him for being so wrong. But in reality, what I think I really want is to have a dad I love and respect, even though he's wrong. And that's what I have. Like I mentioned earlier, he was here this weekend. He came to see me in my show. And when he got here, we checked into his hotel and we hung out and we talked for an hour or so. And we got into politics, and Dad and I have had some very ugly discussions that escalated way past the point of discussion, full out arguments where we were very mad at each other in the end. But that's not what this was. He and I spent an hour or so talking about the election and my podcast and how much, how much we disagree. We couldn't agree on anything, like nothing. Like we are so far in the opposite direction on all topics regarding this election. We simply did not agree on anything, but I still love him. He still loves me. Mutual respect. And we can laugh about how wrong we think each other is, which is great. I mean, it's as good as I can hope for, right? If I can't have a dad who is a progressive, liberal, open-minded person, then I'll take what I got. And what I got's pretty good. Like I said, he loves and respects me, so how bad could he be?
Thing number two.
I am about 12 hours in to listening to Stephen King's The Stand. Now, I have, if you've been listening to this show for a while, you know that I have become a Stephen King fan. I've read many of his books in the last year or two, and many people say that The Stand is his greatest book. And for two reasons, I have been resistant to diving into The Stand. One is its length. If you look at it in how long it takes to listen to the audiobook, which is how I devour books these days, it's like 45 hours. That's 2 or 3 times longer than like most books. It's ginormous. So the sheer size of it was a deterrent for me. It's a commitment. I'm not against the concept of reading a long book. It's a commitment, right? And two, I'm not a huge fan of the horror, the fantasy stuff, right? Like when I think of Stephen King and like Gunslinger or whatever those books are, Darkest Hour, those things, they seem fantastical, and that's just not my cup of tea. And for some reason, that's what I thought The Stand was. So far, that's not what The Stand is. Just to sum up what I've heard so far, it's about a pandemic. It's about a horrible disease that once you get it from basically, moisture droplets from other people, the same way that COVID spread was the way that this disease spread. Captain Trips, they call it. And basically most of the people on Earth die, except for those who are immune to it. And what you experience in the first 28-ish chapters of the book is you get to meet what I assume are the main characters that we will live with for the rest of the book, and live life with them leading up to the pandemic that takes place in this book, in which you'll have parents interacting with their children, grown children with their parents. You'll have boyfriend and girlfriend relationship things, employer-employee relationship things, and the character building in the first third of The Stand is some of the best I've ever read. Touching conversations between an adult girl talking to her dad about how she's just found out she's pregnant, and it's a tearjerker of a conversation she has with her dad, and then when she has to talk with her mom about it, it's painful, just how horribly her mother handles the whole thing, and it all rings true. It's crazy. A son who's been gone for a long time and comes back to see his mom after he hasn't seen her for a long time, and the way she deals with him, the loving way she deals with him, despite the fact that she's not a fan of some of his choices, things like that. It's just these relationship issues are not what most people, certainly not what I think of when I think of Stephen King books. But they are the best part of Stephen King books. And I'm sure as this book gets on, I mean, I literally have over 30 hours left to read. So I'm sure it's going to get more fantastical, maybe. Something supernatural, something very Stephen King-ish, right? And I'm sure that's going to happen. And I'm totally okay with it because of the characters that I have come to know and understand in the early part of this book. So Stephen King he's the master. He's one of my, if not my favorite author. And he really gets relationships, and I just don't think he gets enough credit for this.
Thing number 3.
All right, time for something stupid. When I parked my car at the Timberwood Grill to go to lunch last week, I pulled into a parking space right out front of the restaurant. There was a car on both sides of my car when I pulled in, and I parked really good. I mean, I have a picture of how good I parked. I got out of my car. No problem. I went in. I ate lunch. I finished my lunch and came back out. And there was a different car parked next to me on my driver's side. So whoever was parked there when I pulled in had left, and a different car had pulled in next to me on my driver's side. And they parked so close to my car that I could not get in my car. barely squeeze between the two vehicles. And I could open the door maybe 4 or 5 inches. I mean, there was simply no fitting in. Like, not even a skinny person could have gotten in on the driver's side of my car because of how close this other car parked to me. So what do I do? What do you do in a situation like that? One option, I could have gone around and climbed through the passenger side of my car and into the driver's seat. But no, homie, don't play that. Plus, if I did that, if I just climbed in from the other side, got in my car, started it up, and left, that person that parked so close to me would have no idea that they had done that. And I thought it was a good thing to do for humanity that this person should know there's rules about parking. And not only were they close to me, they were also over the line. It's not like that I had parked close to the line and so did they. That's one thing, right? Like, that's not that's forgivable. No, they were over the line and so close to me I couldn't get in. So I just couldn't let more people deal with this moron parking without this moron knowing how bad it was. And it seems like a little thing, but it's not. It's a big deal. What if that were an elderly person? What if that were somebody, what if that were a person that was maybe a loose cannon? Somebody that gets so mad that they overreact to things. I wasn't planning to overreact. I was planning to appropriately react by going back inside, going to the hostess stand at the restaurant. I told her what happened, and she went and got a manager who then told all of the servers in the restaurant to go around and ask the folks at their tables if they drove a black Nissan and parked right out front. And if they did, could they please come out and move it, because there's a person out there that can't get into his car. And they did that. I watched them. I watched all the servers asking their people, and it was the manager himself at the bar talking to one of the people at the bar, and I could see that person was like, "Oh yeah, I think that's me," and they found the person. He was a guy that seemed like he gets up and he comes out like he doesn't have a problem doing this, but he's coming out and he's kind of jovial. He seemed kind of like he might have already been drinking when he got there. He hadn't been at the Timberwood Grill for long, right? I had shown up less than an hour before that, eaten lunch, and I was leaving. So he was there long enough to have 1 or 2 drinks at the Timberwood Grill, and he was clearly further along than that. But when he came out, he was nice enough. He kind of apologized loosely, not really super sincere, but he apologized, and then he moved his car. I should also note, by the way, that this guy, when his car was parked next to mine like that, and I'm looking at his car, trying to figure out what to do, I'm looking at the dashboard, and right on top of the dash, like on the center of the dash, on the top, his laptop, and on top of his laptop, his wallet. Just sitting right there in plain sight. This person clearly not in their right mind. I hope, for everybody's sake, that he had a designated driver, somebody else to take the car home, because he was clearly not going to be in any better shape when he left Timberwood than he was when he got there, and it was already pretty bad. But he moved his car, I got in mine, and I went back to work. And I hope I left the world a better place that day. Thank you so much for listening to Three Things with JR. I'm JR. Next week, it will be an episode of Small Things Considered, so definitely tune into that. We are no longer talking politics and the election. We're talking about bands we love and other weird news and other small things that need to be considered. Last week's episode was mostly about Linkin Park and their new album From Zero, and how much Gary and I are madly in love with that album. And I continue to be like binging that album. When I'm not listening to Stephen King's The Stand, I am listening to From Zero by Linkin Park and diving way back into all of the old stuff from Linkin Park as well. But you want a deep dive on that? That's what you're going to get from last week's episode of Small Things Considered. I have no idea what we're going to talk about this coming week, but that's every other Tuesday from Three Things with JR. So go get your tickets for The Wizard of Oz. Check out my YouTube channel, What Is It About You, for fun videos about random people on the street. Small Things Considered on alternating Tuesdays from this show. This show is written, produced, fact-checked. There's no, whatever. It's all me. This one is all me. The other one, Gary and I split the deal, but this one, it's all me. Thank you so much for listening. I'm at that point where I don't have anything written down, and so I'm just still talking for no good reason. So I should probably play the theme song and get out of here. Good night. Thanks for listening. Love you. Peace out.
It's a brand new day. It's a brand new day.
Yo, Mars Blackman here with my main man, Michael Jordan. Yo, Mike, what makes you the best player in the universe? Is it the vicious stunts?
No, Mars.
Is it the haircut?
No, Mars.
Is it the shoes?
No, Mars.
Is it the extra long shorts?
No, Mars.
It's the shoes then, right?
Nah.
Is it the short socks?
No, Mars.
Money's gotta be the shoes. Shoes. You sure it's not the shoes?
I'm sure, Mars.
What about the shoes?
No, Mars.
Money's gotta be the shoes.